Do aliens exist, and are they among us? Are weird creatures lurking in the darkness? Do evil entities hide in the shadows of your bedroom while you sleep? Join us as we explore all this and more on the Warped Reality Podcast.
What's going on, all you crazy ghost enthusiasts out there? It's your boy, Ghost Joe. Welcome to the Warped Reality Podcast. This is episode 8, also known as the Halloween special. I have an awesome episode for you guys tonight. We're going to talk some spooky stuff. We're going to talk about some Halloween stuff. We're going to talk about some witch stuff, as well as a great interview with Miss Shanna Stoker, who is the founder of the Ghoulish Garb, a practicing witch, and a tarot card enthusiast. So please stay tuned for that. So let's talk about a little bit about Halloween, all right? So Halloween was actually a tradition originated with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor All Saints. Soon, All Saints' Day incorporated some of the traditions of Samhain. The evening before was known as All Hallows' Eve, and later Halloween. But we all know what Halloween's all about. It's about getting candy, dude. I mean, come on. Candy. Candy's awesome. That's all I have to say about Halloween today. Happy Halloween, everybody. So I was sitting on this story for a little while. I was going to use it in my last show, but I figured since I'm going to be doing a Halloween episode, this is a perfect episode to do this in. So have you guys ever heard of Dorothy Good? Dorothy Good was the youngest person to be accused of being a witch in the Salem witch trials. She was only 4 years old. Dorothy, daughter of Sarah and William Good, she was accused by Mary Walcott and Ann Putnam, claiming she was deranged and repeatedly bit them as if she were an animal. When authorities questioned her about it, she confessed, and she said that she had seen her mother talking with the devil. Her mother was also one of the accused, actually one of the first to be accused. Dorothy was jailed from March 1692 up until her father was able to make bond and get her released by December 1692. Dorothy was never convicted of or suspected witchery, but she lived a tortured life with many psychological issues due to her imprisonment, of course. Dorothy's mother, who, as I said, was one of the first to be accused of being a witch, was eventually hanged on July 29th, 1692. In 1710, William Good successfully sued the Great and General Court for health and mental damages done to Sarah and Dorothy, ultimately receiving £30 sterling, one of the largest sums granted to the families of the witchcraft victims. That's crazy, right? I mean, just the whole thing about the Salem witch trials, it was just nuts how, I saw that person doing this, or I saw that person doing that, or I saw them speaking to the devil, or and just everybody just believed everybody. But then they didn't believe the person that was the logical one that was saying, I didn't speak to no devil, that whole thing was just a mess. I mean, a lot of people passed away, and you'll hear, of course, April talk about it in a little while on April's Creepy Corner. So definitely check that segment out. But first, let's get into some horrible reviews. So in this one, it is a Halloween episode, so I figured I would review No, I'm not going to review the new Halloween Kills movie. Maybe in another episode, but I felt that was a little too cliche. So I'm going to review the episode 1 of the new Chucky TV series on Sci-Fi and USA. Now, at the time of this recording, only the first episode has been out. So that's what I'm going to give my review on. Spoiler alert, though, by the way, if you don't want to know anything at all about it, but I don't really give too much away. So I really enjoyed the first episode. Chucky is voiced by the original voice actor, Brad Dourif. And let me tell you, he's still got it. That laugh, the sarcasm, and his deranged sense of humor are all intact in the series. The show follows a teen named Jake Weber, who lives with his dad after his mom dies in a fatal accident. His dad is an alcoholic who is extremely bitter and ashamed of himself and his son. Jake is a loner with a very artistic mind. He's a recluse who gets bullied and humiliated by pretty much everyone in school except for a few. He picks up Chucky at a yard sale, and of course, hilarity ensues. Here's a little Easter egg for you, by the way. If you look closely at that scene, you can see the back of Jennifer Tilly walking around. Let me just point out, Tilly is 62 years old, by the way. Wow. Anyway, I don't want to give too much away, although I don't really have too much to tell anyway. But I've always loved the Child's Play franchise. I could have done without Seed of Chucky, but I've always loved them. The first one's great, the second and third, and I absolutely love Bride of Chucky as well. Here's a fun fact, though. A Seed of Chucky was oddly playing in the hospital waiting room when my wife was giving birth to my second daughter. Coincidence? I hope so. All right, guys, so let's now check in with our very own April for April's Creepy Corner. Take it away.
Hello, spooky friends. This is April's Creepy Corner, and in this episode, we are talking all about the Salem witch trials. So I just got back from a delightfully scary trip to Salem, Massachusetts, and if you have never been there, I highly, highly recommend it, particularly during the month of October, when the entire city seems to come alive, and with lots to do like ghost tours, candlelit night walks, museums galore. My favorite happens to be the Ouija Museum with an incredible and informative owner, psychics, trolley rides, restaurants, and of course there is no shortage at all of witchy shops to find that perfect spell to bring home. It really is just a super fun place and a great time for all ages. Now let's dive into a little haunted history, shall we? The Salem witch trials were a series of hearings and prosecutions of people accused of witchcraft in colonial Massachusetts between February 1692 and May of 1693. More than 200 people were accused. That was both men and women. 30 were found guilty, and 19 were executed by hanging, 14 women and 5 men. One other man, Giles Corey, was pressed to death by heavy boulders placed on top of his chest while he refused to plead guilty, and at least 5 people died in jail. And there were other practices they engaged in that were just downright crazy and completely vile, like witch cakes, for instance. So it was believed that the person's essence could be found in their urine. So they took the witch's pee, or alleged witch's pee, mixed it with flour, and baked it into a little loaf. And then they would feed it to a dog. And when the dog's teeth ripped through the cake, the pain would be transferred to the witch, and she would writhe in pain. The dog would unfortunately then be killed, and the witch would be exposed and prosecuted. Eventually, the colony admitted that the trials were a mistake and compensated the families of those convicted. Can we say too little too late? Since then, the story of the trials has become synonymous with paranoia and injustice, and it continues to beguile the imagination more than 300 years later. And the stories really do baffle the mind. In 1692, a 9-year-old girl, Elizabeth Parris, and her 11-year-old Abigail Williams began having fits, including violent contortions and uncontrollable outbursts. The local doctor came to see them and diagnosed them both with bewitchment. Other girls in the community began to exhibit similar symptoms, and later arrest warrants were issued for Paris's Caribbean slave Tituba, whom the girls accused of bewitching them. The hysteria spread through the community and even beyond into the rest of Massachusetts, and a number of others were accused. The trials soon began to overwhelm the justice system, and it wasn't until 1693 that the trials began to dwindle. But the painful legacy of the Salem witch trials endured well into the 20th century. And it's really no wonder why Salem and hauntings go hand in hand. There's just so much emotion, history, and negative energy lingering there that it is reported that the majority of homes, apartments, stores, buildings, etc., experience some degree of paranormal activity. And of course, the number one question is, well, what started all this to begin with? And I mean, what caused this outbreak of symptoms that spread like wildfire? Although there is no sure answer to that, we have a few guesses. Girls during that time period were not encouraged to be educated or even play outside or be frivolous like boys were. They were generally confined to the house doing tedious chores. No wonder why they started acting out. In an effort to explain the hysteria by scientific means, the strange affliction suffered by the bewitched residents, a study published in Science magazine in 1976 cited the fungus ergot, found in rye, wheat, and other cereals, which toxicologists say can cause symptoms like delusions, vomiting, and muscle spasms. Or perhaps there was something truly otherworldly going on. We will never know for certain, but what we do know is that these poor souls did not deserve the treatment they got. There are still modern witch hunts that go on today, just different in nature. Let's take this as a reminder to be kind to one another and never jump to conclusions. So thanks for listening to April's Creepy Corner. Stay spooky.
Thank you so much, as always, April. That was an awesome segment. Yeah, like I said before, that whole thing with the Salem witch trials was just so messed up. And thank you so much for all that history on it. So right now we have an awesome voicemail. It came in anonymous because he didn't say his name. But yeah, check it out. It's pretty creepy, and I'll share my thoughts after you hear it. So here you go.
Hello, Ghost Joe. I've been a long time listener of the Warp Reality podcast, and I'd like to share a little spooky thing that happened to me and my friend. It was like 9 o'clock at night, and we just got through working out, and we were walking back to my car and his in the parking lot, and he saw something run under a car. He said it was like a cat or something. And we looked under, and there was nothing there. He kept arguing with me, like, yeah, there was a cat. And we looked everywhere, and we couldn't find it. So he said on the way back to his house, he kept hearing like a cat meow in like his back seat, and he kept turning around, but he never could find anything. And then he went to go to bed, and he heard clawing at his door at 2 a.m. when he woke up. And this kept happening for 2 months, and he kept telling me all these stories about how he'd open the door and then the scratching would stop. And then one day we found a cat corpse in his backyard, and he was like, well, maybe that was it. I don't know. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, and on the podcast. So I'll leave you with that. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for that awesome voicemail, and I totally appreciate you being a longtime listener, and I hope you continue to listen. I hope I continue to bring you some great content. And please keep calling. Listen, if you guys have an experience that you'd like to share, please, 845-379-1331. Or you could email me at ghostjoeny@gmail.com. You could always do it anonymously, just as this gentleman had done. So let me give you my little thoughts on this. So could it have been a real cat? Well, I mean, the way that your friend had described it when he was opening the door and it wasn't there, I don't think cats could go invisible, so I definitely believe that there was definitely something there, which is crazy. I mean, but at the same time, listen, as you'll hear from my interview in a little while with Shanna Stoker, she actually talked about this too, and even ghost cats as well. Listen, there's some cultures, and I'm not knocking any cultures, but there's some cultures that believe that animals don't have souls. And to me, I mean, you could look into an animal's eyes, any animal, I mean, even a fish, and you could see that there's something there. So, yeah, I believe that it definitely could have been, maybe it was a cat, a ghost of a cat that followed your friend home and, just wanted to play or something, and maybe that when he found that corpse of the cat, or maybe it was leading him to that corpse so he could find that corpse, and maybe that is what made it, finally go to its final resting place, But yeah, man, that was an awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing, and if you have any more, don't hesitate to give me a call back. Thanks a lot. All right, everybody. So now it's time for everyone's favorite segment. Well, probably not really, but it's a cool segment. I enjoy it. Maybe not the best, but okay. Anyway, this one is called "I Read It on Reddit." So let's go. This one's entitled "Demon Girl." I live in a small town in rural Australia. I'm a cyclist and I coordinate sports events, marathons, sell bikes and gear and whatnot. Around 6 a.m. this morning, I drove my bike up the mountain, and on the way, I passed a woman sitting by the side of the road. At first, I thought she could have been a hitchhiker, but there's no hotels around here, and she had no bags. I stopped my car about 400 meters away from her, grabbed a bottle of water out of the car, and walked down to see what was going on. This is the moment I realized she's one of the most gorgeous women I have ever seen. She was probably about 20, pale as F, long wavy blonde hair to her hips, and one of those really German-like hourglass figures. German-like? Really blue eyes, like this chick was crazy hot. Was wearing those long summer dresses that beach kids seem to love, which was freaking weird for the middle of the Australian bush. So I'm walking towards her like, oh my God, but I'm also thinking, what the F? I hand her the bottle of water and ask her if she's lost or needs a lift back to town. She just stares, doesn't take the water, no blinking. I think, oh shit, she's some kind of crazy. So I ask her if she ran away from somewhere, and she just said no, and hadn't blinked yet. So I ask her if she's waiting for someone to come pick her up, and she said no again. I ask her where her house is, and she says, here. I'm halfway up a mountain. There's no houses around here. So I was kind of starting to get creeped out about this lady. I walked back to my Jeep, was going back down to the mountain, and call the cops and get them to come sort this lady out. And she follows me. I was like, look, are you sure you don't want me to run you back to town? And she just says no again. So I'm all, look, I don't feel comfortable leaving you here in the middle of nowhere. Please let me take you to the police station. And she just turns around and walks off into the bush, miles from anywhere. And I'm just sitting there like, what the F? And then I really started to get scared when the bug and bird noises started to come back. It made me realize that I hadn't heard a single other sound while I was talking with her. Like no crickets, no early morning sounds at all. I hightailed it the F out of there and called the local cops when I reached the bottom of the mountain. Basically, just said I saw a woman up the mountain who refused to get in my car. And then I realized how effed up that sounded, and I hung up. What the hell could that have been? So, guys, on October 13th, Mr. William Shatner, James T. Kirk himself, of Star Trek, of course, became the oldest person at age 90 to ever take a trip into space. He flew on the Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin flight. It was an 11-minute trip, just as Jeff had done, where they basically just go up into space for a little while, hang out there for a minute, check it all out, and then they come back down. So Shatner said that he hopes that he can maintain what he was feeling when he went up there, and he thinks that everyone in the world should try this. And, that it was so profound to see, the blue down there, then, just blackness above you. and he was actually practically brought to tears, explaining the whole situation. So, congratulations, Mr. Shatner, for being the oldest person to ever fly into space. So before we get into the interview with Miss Shanna Stoker, I just wanted to let you guys know to please check out warprealitypodcast.com. You'll be able to find information on all of our guests, a blog, a store with some merch, and also all of the links to all of the social media, such as the Instagram, the TikTok, the YouTube, amongst others. So please check all that out. So before starting this interview, I just wanted to let you guys know that it might sound a little weird because I recorded it a little unorthodox using my AirPods and my phone, using Zoom, because I was on location getting my car inspected. And I didn't want to cancel this interview because we've canceled it a few times already, myself and Shauna. So, I just wanted to get this out to you guys, so we made it happen. So check it all out. Here's my awesome interview with Miss Shanna Stoker.
Hey, how you doing? What's up?
Hi. Couldn't hear you before. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Zoom kind of sucks. I got to figure out another way of doing this. How's it going?
It's good. How are you?
It's been crazy. I didn't want to cancel the interview or push it back because we've done it like 3 times already and everything. Then I had to get my car inspected and everything. I said, all right, I'll take my car and I'll find a place to sit down. It turns out that the place that I'm going to is right on a busy road. I'm like, oh man.
Oh no. Oh my
gosh.
So
I found a trail right nearby. So it's much quieter now. So
good. Yeah, I'm in the back of my hotel. I tried to get them to let me stay another hour and they were like, no, we're gonna have to charge you. So
wow. So how's it going? How's everything? All right.
It's good. I've just been busy. I traveled home helping out with my grandmother, but I'm on my way back to Orlando now, so that's good.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. How's Florida right now? It's hurricane season, right?
Raining. Yeah, it's hurricane season still. So just tons of rain, which I'm used to because I'm from the Gulf Coast in Alabama. So like right on the water of like the Gulf of Mexico and the Bay right there. And so I'm used to it. It's essentially right. Florida. It's right along the line of the Panhandle. So
yeah, I'm from New York, so we have all 4 seasons.
I would love that. That's my plan after I'm done with Florida. Is like, okay, maybe Salem, maybe New York. I don't know, but yeah, somewhere that has 4 seasons is preferable. I'm tired of all the rain and humidity.
Let's get this out of the way, right? So I saw your TikTok about your name, right? And you're a descendant of a specific author, Bram Stoker, right? The author of Dracula. Have you ever done the family tree? Have you ever figured out like?
We're working on one now because the way that we've always heard about it, I mean, like it was just kind of passed down in the family through stories because, he had family in Virginia and like that's spoken about in biographies about him. It's well known. It was documented. He wrote letters from Virginia while he was writing Dracula. He wrote parts of Dracula in Virginia while he was visiting the family and everything. So, and my family moved from Virginia in the same area where his family was down to Washington County, Alabama, which is just in the middle of nowhere. I think maybe now they have one stoplight. I'm not sure. But it was just, they moved down to Alabama and it was just something that they always carried with them through stories of just being like, yeah, it's just like a part of the family history. Right. And then my uncle had a family Bible that had names going back to the Virginia family. His name wasn't in there, but family that we know that I believe, I'm still trying to get all my information, that I believe he either stayed with or had contact with, I don't know, from the Virginia area their name is in the book, and I have to go back and look because it's been a few years since I found that. But yeah, we're still trying to like go through ancestry, and like I have another cousin, Susan, who was actually named after Brahms' or aunt, I think. But I have another cousin, Susan, who has done a bunch of genealogical recording on all of this and has traveled to Ireland, to the same area where he actually grew up, and has spoken to some relatives over there. So, and we've traced our family all the way back to, I can't remember the name of the town, but it's a little town in Ireland in like 1597, I think. So, yeah, we're trying to get it all, like all perfectly recorded, but we have a lot of evidence. And again, it's just been something that I've heard my whole life. Yeah, big part of my family.
Did you ever try to write anything like any kind of scary stuff or anything? Try to follow in the footsteps? Or?
That's funny because that's actually how I found out about this. I was in second grade, of course, second grade. And I've always been interested in just weird, macabre things. I've had paranormal experiences since I can remember. And so in second grade, I at the time was really into, I don't remember what the series of books was, but it was kind of like haunted history books or something. And I found them in our library, and they were kid appropriate. And of course, they were about things that kids would be interested in. So I had learned about that supposedly Ring Around the Rosie, the childhood song or game, was inspired. The rhyme was inspired by the Black Plague, and I'm just like obsessed with this. I don't know. I could not get that out of my head. So in second grade, I'm writing. I start writing this little book, and it's a horror story about a little girl like me at the time, and I don't remember anything about the plot, but I just remember it was called Rose Red.
Huh.
And I watched the movie, and I was like, well, I can't call it Rose Red now. And I was terrified because I was in second grade. But anyway, but yeah, I was visiting my grandparents in Auburn, Alabama, and I was, I guess I was working on the story, or I was telling them about the story or something. And that's when they were like, oh, you're following in your family's footsteps. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And that's when they told me about, and I'm sure they'd probably mentioned it before, but I mean, again, I was very young. So that was when it stuck with me that I was related to Bram Stoker, who wrote Dracula. And of course, nothing ever became of that tiny little book. But no, as far as these days, I recently went to Casadega, which is in Florida. It's like the international, I think, like center of psychics or something. It's just this tiny little town that's been taken over by psychics. So like they have a bunch of novelty shops. They have a bunch of places where you can just sit down and get, have your fortune told or whatever, your cards read or whatever. There's lots of places to sit down and read and eat, and bookshops. And it's just a really cute little place. And I went there, and as soon as I got out of the car, I was like, my roommate was with me, and he was like, let's go over to this bookshop. And I said, I think I need to go over here. Like, I don't know. I just had this feeling. I was like, I think I need to go over there. And they were like, okay, well, I said, no, it's fine. Let's go to the bookshop first. And as soon as I started walking away, I was like, turn around. And I was like, I have to listen to this. He was like, okay, go ahead. And so I turned around and I went to that place that was just like calling to me. And I had the best reading I've ever had in my life. And one of the things she told me was that I was going to write a book one day. So who knows? Although technically I have written a book for the Ghoulish Garb's Tarot Major Arcana deck. There is a guidebook that is, it goes very much, it's not like a narrative book or anything like that, but it's a guidebook just explaining, our symbolism, how it ties into traditional tarot symbolism, how to read them, where the mythology of the creatures that are in our cards comes in. So it's that kind of book, but I don't really consider that as like writing a book, but I guess it kind of did. I don't know.
So let's get into that. Can you tell me a little bit about the Ghoulish Garb and what you guys sell, your mission and everything?
Absolutely. So yes, I am the co-owner and co-operator of the Ghoulish Garb. We have just entered into our third year of operation, which is why I finally was able to comfortably come out and talk about the whole Stoker heritage. I didn't want to do that until I knew that we could stand on our own 2 feet first by ourselves. we've really thrived over the past 3 years. And our main focus has been our tarot designs, which we never anticipated. We started this out as just being a t-shirt company. We were just going to make t-shirts and designs for t-shirts. And then that expanded into other clothing, into tapestries and phone cases and posters. And the more that we saw our designs, really thriving on the market. And the more, I mean, we just got flooded with emails and messages about, when are you going to come out with a deck? We need this as a deck. Can I buy this as a deck? And that was incredible and overwhelming because it takes a long time for us to make even one design. And there's so many. But yeah, that was when we were like, okay, we have to do this. So we really buckled down in our first year of operation to decide, okay, we're going to make a deck. But we wanted, like I said, it takes a long time for us to make one card. Anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks is the whole process, because my partner and I, who own and operate the business, we aren't artists in that way. I'm a very visual thinker and a very visual person. I'm a musical person, but I wish I could do visual art, like put what's in my mind on the paper, but I can't. But we found this incredible artist who we worked with. And what we do, the reason it takes so long is because my partner and I, we decide everything for the card to make sure that it is our art 100%. So, I mean, everything down to, I want her foot angled this way. I want her hair this color with this texture. I want, the sky in the background needs to be this hue of blue going into this hue of purple. Like, I mean, everything is written down. So my partner and I, we usually spend about 8 to 20 hours just coming up with a concept and getting like source material pictures and everything that we can help our artist with. And then I take all of that and all of our meeting notes and I write up a full, description, like I said, as detailed as possible. And then I send all of our description notes and all of our pictures to our artist. He takes that, sends us a sketch after about a week. And then we revise the sketch, send those notes to him. He sends us another sketch revision. We send more notes. He sends us a final. If we have any more notes, we get one more edit, and that's it. But it takes a long time because we are perfectionists. We know what we want, and I have a very, very clear vision of what I've got like in my head. So, and my partner does a really good job too of trying to like come up with a Photoshop mock-up of that, so we can kind of show him what we're thinking in a really very strange way. It works for us that we've been doing it for a while now. And it's so much fun. And we only have the major arcana right now, which is 22 cards. But we did come out with a bonus 23rd card for our recent release of the Tarot deck in the Shadow Edition, which is the black and white version. It's gorgeous. And so we added a bonus card for that since it was a special release. But yeah, the full card, the full deck, the minor arcana, that will be coming, but it'll be a few years away because it's a lot of cards. But I get an email at least once a day saying, hey, do you have any plans for the minor arcana? Because I need the minor arcana. So right now I just tell people, you can use these as an oracle deck since it's just the major arcana. And you can, use them to like get clarification on readings or use them in conjunction with other decks. But yeah, I'm really excited to get the full decks out. I think it's going to be a tremendous success for the business.
So you know how to use the tarot cards?
Oh yeah, I love tarot.
Can you tell me a little, because I've never actually seen them work or anything about them. Can you tell us a little bit about like how you work them, how what they are, what they do?
Absolutely. So the tarot deck that pretty much most people start off with or are going to be familiar with, even if you don't know tarot, is the Rider-Smith-Waite deck. That was, I believe, 1927 was when it was released, but it was in early 1900s. And that's kind of the like most iconic deck. And it wasn't meant to be a tarot deck. It was supposed to just be playing cards. But of course, we witches take things and make it our own. And so basically the way that tarot works, a lot of people think it's supposed to tell your future. I personally don't believe that. I don't believe that there is divine hand necessarily that's just going to show you your future. Because tarot is all about symbolism and reading the symbols, that's one of the reasons I love it, because it's all up to interpretation. You can take my tarot deck that we've created, and you can not even look at the guidebook if you don't want to, and just look at the cards and see what the symbolism says to you. So for instance, the way that we've written and drawn it, for us, like, we might have a decrepit old tree that means something to us, but you might see it and it might call to a memory or something in your mind or something that you associate with this old tree, maybe a place in your home, maybe a person, and that might be the meaning of this tree in this deck for you. So, for me, it's less about trying to tell the future and more about helping you uncover the questions or the answers that you haven't quite thought of yet. So for instance, say you have a question for the tarot, and it's something about, I have 2 jobs that are ahead of me, that I've got that I could take. I don't know which one to take. I don't know which one's best for me. Can you help guide me? And you're asking these questions. And I do believe in spirit guides too, but I don't believe they're exactly pulling the cards for you, But yeah, so you might want to ask that question. And then really, I try to get when I'm doing a reading for myself or for others, I try to get whoever is involved in the reading to really meditate on that question and to put their energy on that question while we're working through the cards. And usually I allow people to pull for themselves those first 3 cards, because I feel like you need to feel the energy of the cards. And then from there, you might see symbolism that is telling you, or to you, that is saying, maybe take a risk, and maybe you already know what that risk is, which one of these options is the riskier option, and you're just afraid of taking the risk, and by seeing that card, it's almost like the coin flip psychology. By seeing that card, you already have determined how you feel about that option. Do you know what I mean by coin flip psychology? Okay.
Sure.
So yeah. And so, you're not necessarily making the coin's not necessarily going to make the decision for you, but it will uncover what decision you wish it would make. And that is the thing with tarot. It helps uncover those bits that we aren't quite in tune with every day. And that's one of the reasons why I love it as an option for self-care and self-reflection. I try to do a card pulling every day, and just kind of see what I'm feeling and what I feel like maybe the universe is trying to tell me that day. But again, I don't believe that it's just a hard and fast, here's what's going to happen in your future type of a thing, which is a lot of the misconception of tarot.
That's true. So the other thing that I remember reading about you, and you had said in your TikToks and stuff, that you're a practicing witch, right?
Yes.
Now, the only thing I know about, witch is the Craft movie from 1994, so that's really the only thing I really know about that stuff. And when I had asked you about Wicca or the Wiccan religion, you said that they're kind of different, or you could be a witch and not be Wiccan. Like, what do you exactly mean? Like, can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a common misconception because of pop culture, which is totally fine. A lot of people think that if I say I'm a witch, that means I'm a Wiccan. Now, so this is kind of one of those things where all Wiccans are witches, right? They identify as witches from what I understand, because I'm not a Wiccan, but all witches are not Wiccans. So witchcraft is not, it's not associated with any one particular religion. If you look back historically at different religions and just throughout history of lore and literature, then you will see that pretty much every single religion has a version of witches. And the thing is, I have friends who are witches who practice Judaism. I have friends who are actually, my uncle who helped teach me about witchcraft is a practicing Jew. And I have friends who are secular like me who practice witchcraft, who don't necessarily work with any particular deity. I have a friend who's a Satanist who's a witch. I've got a friend who's a Christian who's a witch. Like, I have a bunch of different friends who have who call themselves witches and who practice witchcraft on a daily basis, but they also practice different religions or no religion at all. And so the way that works is, witchcraft is essentially all about taking control of your life, taking control of the energies that surround you, and saying, I have more control than I think I do. Now, that's not to say, because I know a lot of witches. I don't know them personally, but I've heard a lot of especially new age witches who are like, you don't need your depression medication. You just need to focus on your energies. And I'm like, no, I need my depression medication so I can focus on my energies. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not one of those. I have a lot of mental health, issues with depression and anxiety and PTSD. So I am medicated. But I also believe that, on a day-to-day basis, I can do energy work and I can work with my own, like manipulating the energies within myself and around me in order to kind of get more in balance. It helps. So for me, it's not a way of getting rid of, the medication or any of that new age stuff. It's more about just much more in line with traditional witchcraft, older witchcraft. I'm a pagan witch personally, which pagan is anything that's not Christian traditionally, but I do technically call myself like a pagan witch, just because I very much am focused on, like I said, energies, and I'm into animism. Do you know what animism is?
No.
Okay, so animism is just the idea that pretty much everything has a spirit, right? So I believe animals, I grew up Christian. I grew up in Alabama, so of course I grew up Christian. And so, I grew up specifically Southern Baptist Christian, and I was taught that animals don't have souls. And I've always been an animal person, and I've always believed you can look into their eyes and see it. Like, you can, like, if I have a soul, they have a soul. If they don't have a soul, I don't have a soul. Like, that's how I feel about it.
Right. Sure.
And, and I the same thing with plants. I feel this energy. I mean, there's an energy to nature. There's an energy, even things that aren't alive, but are mineral, like rocks, crystals, things like that. They carry energy, they hold energy, and that energy is all around us. We hear that, when we study science, that no energy, no matter can be created or destroyed, right? And I believe the same thing happens. I think that pertains when we think about our souls, or when we think about the energy that we carry. Like, there's a reason I believe in ghosts. I've had experiences, and I think that energy that hasn't been destroyed or hasn't been moved on to another source stays behind. So anyway, animism is that's a very quick rundown of animism, just basically that everything has a spirit, a soul. And that's a huge part of my belief and of my practice as a witch, of just respecting myself, respecting the nature around me, respecting other people and animals. I do eat meat. I used to not. I was a vegetarian and a vegan for a while, but I got weak. I dreamt about cheese a lot. So, but I try to, I just try to be respectful, and I try to thank my meals. And I know that sounds silly, but you know what I mean? It's just all about respect. It's about the flow of the energies. And it sounds so silly, but it is. That's essentially the source of it all for me.
So you mentioned it a couple of times about having a paranormal experience. People that are in, that have to do with the paranormal, or, our kind of field, I guess you could say. We've a lot of us, we've gotten into it or interested in it because we've had paranormal experiences. Can you share one of yours?
Yeah, sure. The first one that actually sticks out to me, like the first one that I fully remember, that will never leave me, because I know I've had experiences my whole life, but I'm a skeptic by nature, which is why it took me such a long time to really embrace this part of myself, the witchcraft, the paranormal, all of that, because I do try to debunk everything, and I try to I don't just take something that's spooky and say, oh, it's a ghost, or I might in a silly way, but I'm immediately going to be like, okay, let's like recreate this. Let's turn the AC back on. Let's like try to figure out if it's humidity or whatever, a pipe or something. But the one that I know I was awake and I cannot ever get this image out of my mind. I was 8 years old. And this was when I finally knew, like, okay, you can see things. I was 8 years old, and at the time, I was my bedroom had actually used to have been it was an office space in this new house that we had bought because it was me, my mom, my stepdad, and my sister, and so there was a bedroom upstairs for my parents. There was a bedroom next door for my sister, and then I was the youngest, so I got the room that had no doors, which is fine. So my bed was facing. I had just this little like twin bed. And it was catty corner in the wall because it was a really small space. And it was like kind of facing this doorway, like if I was laying down, right? So I'm laying down facing the doorway. The doorway is going into the laundry room from my sister's room to the bathroom. Like there's a little hallway there or walkway. And I'm laying there. And I just remember like I was reflecting on the day. I couldn't sleep. My cats were kind of going in and out, and then all of a sudden, as I'm just kind of staring at the space, this Native American man walks from where my sister's room is into the doorway, stops for just a moment and looks at me. And then he turns back and walks into where the bathroom is. And I covered my head and I just was so scared, but I was scared because I knew I had seen something. Right. So there's that fear that like, you just saw something that shouldn't have, like, that's not logical at all. You shouldn't have seen that. It's the middle of the night. What's this, but I knew, first of all, I knew it wasn't a real person. Like I knew it wasn't a man there. So I wasn't afraid like that. But secondly, like I couldn't get this feeling out of my head. Whenever he looked at me, when he turned and looked at me, I had this, like, I felt, oh my gosh, I get like emotional thinking about it. Sorry. He seemed I felt so calm and I felt at peace. And I felt like he was looking over, not me or anything, like he wasn't there for me, but like, it was like he was just kind of surveying his land and I just happened to be there. And he just looked at me and it was just, but the way he looked at me, the feeling, like I said, it was like I felt protected and calm, which is which was also really hard for me to just like deal with because I was also terrified at the same time. How does that work? But yeah, so it was crazy. And I saw a lot of, which I see these in my new place too. In my old home, I saw a lot of shadow cats. Ghost cats. Okay.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
They could be residual energy from my own cats. I don't know if you're aware of like the difference between. You should be, obviously. Paranormal stuff. Sorry, I do a lot of. I do a lot of. I have to remember because like my interviews, I'm like, okay, is this a witchy person that knows about witchcraft, or a paranormal person, or somebody who's just interested in the business? Like, how much do I have to explain? But yeah, I think that could have just been residual energy from my own cats, or it could have been, I believe that animals have souls, which means I believe that that ghost animals are a thing.
Sure.
And in my new home, my new apartment with my roommate, we have seen multiple cats, ghost cats, what we call them. We have 3 cats of our own, but there's one that likes to curl up behind my bed, like behind my windowsill where I sleep behind me. And there's one that likes to curl up, or I think it's the same one. He likes to curl up where my other cat curls up on the floor next to him. And then there's one that like sleeps in my roommate's room. So like we have a bunch of those. But the funny thing is I hadn't seen them since I was a kid at my other place. So that was interesting. But yeah, I've got so many paranormal experiences. So many. It's a huge part of who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have a ton of them, but the ones that I've had, I've seen apparitions. I've had a remote control fly off the table in front of me, and just some crazy stuff. But luckily, I haven't had anything, as far as I know, to be evil or demonic. It's always been, spirits of deceased people. That's at least that's what I've noticed. But so what are you guys working on right now? What kind of endeavors are you doing right now with the Ghoulish Garb or anything?
Well, with the Ghoulish Garb, we're working on another major arcana deck. It's not officially named yet, but it's based on goddesses from various, religions and cultures around the world. And we're really trying to include, cultures that might not be, as popular right now, or like as popular in mass, because I know most of the witches that I work with and that I know personally, they are looking for designs for Hellenic or Celtic goddesses specifically. But I know other witches who, practice like the Yoruba religion from, like Yamaya it's like an African Yoruba religion. So we have her, we've got Isis from Egyptian mythology. We've got, of course, we do have our Celtic and our Hellenic goddesses as well. I love Hecate. She's one of my absolute favorites. And so we, of course, have her. She was our first design. I mean, with this artist, she was our very first design. And that's why we decided to go back to the goddesses, because from the Hecate design, we decided to do Halloween tarot, but our Hecate design has been hugely popular. So we said, okay, well, let's do a goddess major arcana. So we're working on that now. We're hoping that deck will be released by the end of the year, or end of next year, excuse me. So the end of 2022. But we do release all of our designs on as we finish them, which is about once a month. We release them on all of our merch that we can. So you can go ahead and be looking at the designs, enjoying them, get your phone case, get your shirt, get your tapestry. And that's a great way to get excited about the deck, And so it's gorgeous. It's the same artistic style that we used for Tarot, which is kind of like that woodcut style. But I specifically really wanted these goddess designs to be more feminine, more soft. And so we kind of worked with him to tweak his art a little bit to make the lines a little bit more soft. We added glow effects. They're gorgeous designs. If you go to our Etsy, which is the Ghoulish Garb, etsy.com/shop/the Ghoulish Garb, no spaces. If you go there and you just type in the search bar, like goddess hoodie, goddess tapestry, whatever, then you'll see all of the goddess designs. They are absolutely gorgeous. Some of my personal favorites so far. But I mean, it's so hard for me to choose. I'm very biased. But that's what we're working on right now. And as soon as we have that out, hopefully by the end of next year, we will be going just crazy balls to the wall for the minor arcana for Tarot. So
Awesome. And how could somebody get in contact with you? I'm going to put all your links and stuff are going to be on the website as well. But on the show notes as well, I'm going to have some links. But how could somebody get in touch with you, as well as the Ghoulish Garb or anything?
Okay, so the easiest way to get in touch with us is actually through Etsy, because I run all of the social media accounts. I run the Etsy, the eBay, all the customer service. That's the quickest way, probably is through Etsy. But you can also check out my TikTok if you want to contact me personally. My email is on there. It's theghoulisgal@gmail.com. So if you're trying to contact me for interviews or anything like that, then yeah, the Ghoulish Gal at Gmail. But if you're contacting me about something for the business or a listing or something like that, then Etsy is probably going to be the quickest way to get in touch with me, or just directly through our Gmail at support@theghoulisgarb.com.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for the interview. I'm sorry for the the weird way that we had to do this today, but I'm glad we were able to.
It's totally fine. Yeah, me too.
So thanks again. Have a good day. All right.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a good day too.
All right, thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
So that's it, everybody, for my Halloween episode 8 of the Warped Reality podcast. I want to thank Miss Shanna Stoker for the awesome interview. I want to thank April, as always, for your awesome segment. And I want to thank my anonymous voicemail for the voicemail and for being such an awesome listener. Thank you guys, of course, for listening. And I'm out. Thank you for listening to the Warp Reality Podcast. For more episodes, guest info, social media links, merch, and more, please check out warpedrealitypodcast.com. If you have a paranormal experience you'd like to share, questions, comments, or you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can leave me a voicemail at 845-379-1331 or email me at ghostjoeny@gmail.com. You could do so anonymously if you'd like. Also, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or warprealitypodcast.com. Have an awesome night, everyone, and don't forget to change your shorts.